A shooting in Brooklyn takes place just about the time we were on the air yesterday. So we'll talk just a bit about what happened there, what that means, and what we are doing with that going forward. In an almost simultaneous story, the lieutenant governor is caught up in and arrested for a campaign finance violation. So we'll talk just a bit about what's happening with that. Biden is set to announce the authorization of more E15 gasoline coming in during the summer. And by the way, this is that right there. That's my wheelhouse, so I'm going to enjoy talking about that and ripping the administration to shreds over that. And legendary actor Gilbert Gottfried passes away as this year begins to go down the same road as 2018 of guess which celebrity is going to die this week. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. So I guess the Game Chop stream shut down after however many months on the air. Well, they've been going since November. I think that particular stream had. I went back and I looked, and I did not see another stream that was up for them right now. There might be another one coming up ready for tomorrow morning stream. But I also went to the DJ Cutman, which does the same kind of music and the same genre and the same kind of video games essentially. In fact, Cutman himself is regularly featured on the Game Chops playlist, and he also does not have currently have a live stream going either. So a little bit of weird stuff going on in the video game lo-fi circuit here. But yeah, I'm just sitting there like, okay, now what am I going to use? Okay, I can't use Game Chops. This Game Chops have been, and this is all happening at like 7:27 this morning. So like, oh, is Game Chops coming up here? Oh no, there's no Game Chops here. Okay, what do we do? DJ Cutman. Oh, refresh. Oh, there's no live stream off of that. Oh well, I guess we'll use the Star Wars playlist, even though that's only like a 20 to 30 minute playlist. We'll hear it a couple times, but definitely we've got to go through that because that won't pop our copyright either. But we have got a bunch of stuff to get into here today. We're back onto the Wednesday-itis here, and like when I went to bed last night, there was not a. I thought this was going to be a short show last night, but we've got some details coming up. We're going to look at some of the Twitter feeds, some of the stuff that Andy Nyo has put out. We're going to be talking about Waukesha again, oddly enough, as we go. So let's get into it. Let's get started. But before we get started, let's head on over and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. turnsofpagesproductions.com, once we get started, is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Once we get started, we'll be carrying great shows such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys, which it looks like John has just sucked it up blindly, as I've been telling him to do for a long time, and made a personal account. So now we're going to see him really going after some shit too. So he is now at JohnArchist, I believe. So go and check him out if you're over on Twitter. But go check out the Porch Boys. Also, any project that happens to carry Brit Salt and a new upcoming project that's also going to be joining us as we get started. So let's go and check that out. And for those of you who are in the know, also go and check out givesendgo.com/turnsofpages101 with the unfortunate side effect of the fact that it's got my government name on there. Go check out the cause. I've been told by one Harvey Ann McLeod that this is a great cause to make sure that we get our web developer page. So definitely go and check that out. turnsofpagesproductions.com, givesendgo.com/turnsofpages101. And yeah, I don't know how we're going to start publicizing this after I get a name reveal, because it doesn't look like I'm getting a name reveal coming out in the mainstream right now, but keep watch on the Twitter for that. We will see what comes back off of that, and we'll see where we go with that. Let's look at the finance for the morning here. Looking at the Dow, which closed down 0.25%. It did shoot up at the beginning. Once the inflation report was up, it shot up, but then it just kind of steadied and dropped throughout the rest of the day here. They called it an afternoon slump, and that's actually not a bad description of it here. Crossing back below the threshold of the previous close, and then coming back up, clawing its way back up a little bit at the end. And it looks like the futures are looking up again for today, so we'll see what happens and where this goes. But that's what we're looking at with our industrials. Looking in at the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is at 39,860 US dollars and 90 US cents. That is down 225 US dollars, or 0.5% throughout the day, day over day. And Bitcoin is on a pretty significant slide as we keep seeing this go here. I mean, we're back down under the 40,000 mark, so maybe time to sell your Bitcoin. But for those of you, especially like me with my Shiba, that $20 bill that's still worth only $5 at this point, I am holding on to that forever. I don't care. And it's the same thing that we go on with when we talk about the Doge. I could cash out on that, my Doge, and I wouldn't be rich, but I'd be comfortable for a little while if I went back and cashed out on that. But no, I am holding on to that forever too. Fuck, it was a $20 bill. What do I have to lose if I hold on to it forever and it drops to zero? But that's what we see coming off of that. Looking in at gas prices in Madison, Wisconsin, looks like there has been a slight drop in gas prices. We were looking at a solid $3.49 throughout the area yesterday. We've seen possibly on some of the E15 news that were coming up here, because people have no idea what that actually means for their vehicles. Oops, did I say that out loud? But we are seeing a slight speculative drop coming off of this. We saw the Costco was at $3.39 yesterday. That's now down to $3.35 for today. Several other stations have joined the $3.39 mark. The Quick Trip in Madison proper is to $3.48. That's the one on Mineral Point. That's out on the west side. The one on Schrader Road, which is over on the east side, is also at $3.48. And everybody else remains at $3.49 throughout the Madison area right now. So that's what we see off of that. Let's see what IBD has to say on the morning. Dow futures rise after hawkish Fed sinks Fed. JP Morgan at Delta report from Ed Carson. Dow futures rose modestly early Wednesday, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, with JP Morgan Chase and Delta Airlines reporting. The market rally opened solidly higher Tuesday as the Consumer Price Index raised hopes that inflation is peaking, but the major indices reversed lower as top Fed officials signaled aggressive rate hikes and other measures are ahead. Crude oil jumped Tuesday as the Shanghai eased COVID lockdowns in some areas, though the city remains largely shut down. Shanghai case totals continue to rise on Tuesday. There is a growing speculation that the city and much of its industry could be shut down through mid-May. Xi Jinping said the country must not relax its zero COVID policy. JP Morgan and Delta kicked off their bank and airline earnings early Wednesday. JP Morgan earnings fell short as revenue beat. JP Morgan stock fell slightly. Delta reported better than expected first quarter results. Delta stock popped before the open, signaling a move above its 200-day line after reclaiming its 50-day on Tuesday. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.2% versus fair value, pairing pre-market gains. JP Morgan stock is a Dow component. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.2% with Delta Airline and other airlines helping. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.35% off of morning highs. So they got up a little bit further, but they dropped a little bit as we went. Crude oil rose more than 1%. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. And on an afterthought with this, Tesla and Apple rebounded on Tuesday morning, breaking back above their 21-day and 50-day lines respectively within handles, but Apple and Tesla slashed gains as the overall market fizzled. Shell and Devon Energy flashed buy signals as a jump in crude prices fueled energy stocks. Defense giant Raytheon flirted with an early entry because, again, of course, semi-wartime, with weapons being sold to Ukraine, go out and buy the defense stuff. Tesla is on the IBD leaderboard in the IBD 50. RTX is on Swing Trader. Devon Energy is on the IBD Big Cap 20. So a lot of stuff that's moving here, a lot of stuff going along with the energy sector, and some stuff moving on with the fact that inflation is going nuts, but we'll see what happens with that. Let's grab one briefly from Seeking Alpha. I know they've usually got a short article here, and we will get into a meme and the Bane news of the day. We're going to be like the Porch Boys today. We're going to start with the memes, except I only have one. On NASDAQ, S&P 500, and Dow finished lower after afternoon slide. From Kim Khan. The markets finished lower again on Tuesday as early gains disappeared amid a steady retreat during the afternoon. The slide marked the fifth decline out of the past 6 sessions for the NASDAQ and S&P 500 as investors digested another hot reading for inflation. At the end of the session, the Nasdaq was 0.3% down, S&P was down 0.3%, and Dow Jones was also down 0.3%. We've got the numbers there. We're going to hold off on the numbers. The yield curve steepened further amid the latest inflation reading. The 10-year fell to 2.72%, and the 2-year dropped 13 points to 2.38%. Investors initially shrugged off a hotter-than-expected reading for March. Consumer inflation, but worries about the long-term impact of higher prices lingered. Market participants weighed the prospect of the Federal Reserve's reaction to the March CPI, which showed a year-over-year rise of 8.5%, a little hotter than expected. Yeah, let that start hitting the markets and start hitting what we're starting to see here. I don't think that what we're seeing with the rise going on right now, I don't think that's long for this world. At 8.5%, the lie of the Putin price hike can only live for so long. But they're going to try. They're going to try to hold off on it and keep it going forever. I think the Fed would be very happy with a consistent 0.3% month-over-month core CPI pace over the next 6 months. Janney's Guy Labas tweeted Treasury yields fell after the numbers came out, with the curve steepening further. Well, I'm sure that they'd be very happy with a 0.3% month-over-month too. I wouldn't be. I would like to see 0.1% month-over-month. But anything has got to be better than the 0.6 that we're seeing month-over-month. But that's what we see coming off of that. Let's check a meme and let's get into the main stuff of the day. As promised, since we're talking about inflation, Ryan the Millennium Dad. And we looked at this one late in the show yesterday while we were doing Twitter trending. When you get your 3% raise, but inflation is... Where's my red pen? Red pen. 5.4%. 6.2%. 6.8%. 7%. 7.5%. And officially, 8.5%. Thank you, Ryan the Millennium Dad, for that. Or Millennial Dad for that. All right. And one more funny one that we're going to do here because, well, we're going to be blackpilled for most of the rest of this show. I'm not going to lie. Saudi Arabian media releases video mocking Biden as senile, Harris played by man in drag. So, just like normal. From Ryan Saavedra. Saudi Arabian television. That's our ally over in the Middle East, you guys. We have to do everything for Saudi Arabia, including buy oil from them, because that's our ally. Saudi Arabian television released a short video this week mocking Democrat President Joe Biden and Vice President Harris as relationships between the two nations continue to decline due to the Brandon admin's policies. The overarching theme of the clip is that President Biden is old, the Jerusalem Post reported. The character is obviously unaware of his surroundings, just like real life, and prone to falling asleep mid-sentence, consequently, just like real life. Consequently, the audience sees Harris, played by male actor in drag, telling the president what to say and do. Just like in real life. Let's watch. That is better than any of the political material that comes out of SNL right now. That is fantastic. Notable responses to the clip included Max Abrams, professor, says, throughout the Trump presidency, we were told that foreign governments were laughing at him. Tara Servatius says, this is how the world in Saudi Arabia now see America. No, it's how they've seen America for the last year. Jerry Callahan says, the Saudis doing the job SNL refuses to do. John Najarian says, not just funny, but funnier than anything NBC SNL has done this season. And yes, as the article also points out, this sketch comes out amid the tensions because the U.S. is begging Saudi Arabia to go turn on the spigot and pump oil faster. Because we need their oil, apparently. We can't go get our own, we need theirs. Alright, but that's what we see coming off of that. Alright, let's go talk about what happened while we were on the air yesterday. Breaking news. Starting with NBC4 out of New York. Gunman fired 33 times in Brooklyn subway attack, shooting 10 riders. Police say person of interest is identified. As of right now, as far as I know from the articles that I saw coming and starting out this morning, the person of interest is not captured, but has been identified. From Jonathan Dienst, Miles Miller, Jennifer Millman, and Melissa Russo. At least 10 Brooklyn subway riders were shot Tuesday by a man wearing a gas mask and a green construction vest who tossed a smoke canister in the train to distract a rush hour crowd before opening fire, officials and law enforcement sources said. And this right here, this is where I want to start with, because this is not... I mean, what we saw coming out of Sacramento was completely different than what we're seeing right here, right now. What we are seeing right here and right now is somebody who went in professionally to go back out and kill as many innocent bystanders as he could. And that is a little bit scary to me, by the way, to come back out and see something like that. And the fact that, you know, now this is a person who's got away. And the big part of this is the fact that he has gone out and clearly, with a smoke canister, with several undetonated explosive devices, no word on whether or not they were actually capable of being exploded. That's a question that I'm always going to have when we see stuff like this happens conveniently. At the same time, something else bad is happening in the state that they want us to ignore, as whether these were actually explosive devices that could have been exploded. And by the way, I have that same question about the pipe bombs that were discovered honk honk in Washington, D.C. during the Capitol Selfie Fest. I've got that same question for those, but I have got a lot of questions about this. And that's why I called this episode "The Sleight of Hand" in Brooklyn, because this seems to be, and in Yo especially. Well, pay attention to this because this is Waukesha. This is what happened in Pennsylvania. This is all the black nationalism fault and Antifa and leftist groups here. Just pay attention to all this here and here. Let's just shuffle Mr. Benjamin out of the room now. Thank you, producer Pepe. One source close to the investigation says his gun may have jammed. A Glock 19 that jammed. Interesting. Potentially preventing further loss of life, a weapon was recovered at the scene, as was a bag of smoke canisters and fireworks, lending further credence to the theory of a premeditated attack on New York City transit riders, sources and officials say. A senior law enforcement official says authorities have an image of the man they believe is the suspect and are working to identify him. They also found a U-Haul van on Kings Highway in Gravesend with Arizona plates that may be linked to the suspect. I think all U-Haul vehicles have Arizona plates, if I remember correctly. Because while they are used and in use all across the country, I think they're all actually registered in Arizona. I think. That may be incorrect. Law enforcement believe that they identified the man who rented the U-Haul, sources told NBC News out of New York, and police are looking into whether or not the same person who carried out the attack. The man has ties to Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Oddly enough, Waukesha, Wisconsin, with past criminal records in those states as well as ties to New York, law enforcement sources said. It appeared that the man drove the rental van to New York from Pennsylvania on Monday. Based on license plate reader data and other info, that is a scary proposition. That's a reason that I never want to go to that state again. Investigators obtained a video from 5 a.m. Tuesday near where the van was found parked, appearing to show a man matching the description, of the subway attacker emerging from the van. The MTA surveillance camera in the station wasn't working at the time of the shooting, 3 sources said. 5 of the gunshot victims were said to be critically injured. Details on the nature of the wounds weren't immediately clear. No fatalities have been reported. It is not clear what kind of gun was used, nor was it immediately known how many shots were fired. So this is before they nabbed the guy. This is before they knew a lot of the information that went along with that. And the Chans, as usual, have been instrumental in finding out more about what's happening here. Witnesses said the entire train car smelled of gasoline, and MTA sources described a similar smell too. Law enforcement sources later said a spray bottle of gasoline was found. The smoke canister and a harrowing video from the train prompted early concerns about possible explosive devices connected to the case, but New York Police Department Commissioner KTZed assured New Yorkers in an early afternoon conference that there were no known explosive devices on subway trains in the city at this time. Some of the 10 wounded were in the same train car as the suspect. Others were on the platform, authorities said. The train was still moving when Sewell says he donned the gas mask, threw a smoke canister on the subway car floor, and started shooting. The train stopped at the next station at 25th Street. Greenish smoke was seen spewing from the subway doors. When the Manhattan-bound N train stopped at the platform, people were seen running and bleeding. In total, 29 were hurt, and the nearly 24 victims not injured by gunfire were hurt in the crowd response to the chaos. So, a lot of chaos that went off of this. A lot of stuff to see, a lot of stuff to watch off of this. This is a big one. I'm kind of surprised that nobody said something in the chat and we had to break to this right away. We did find it as we were going through Twitter trending, but it only happened like 20 minutes before that, so we'll see what happens with that. One of the next ones that comes out of this almost immediately from ABC 7 Eyewitness out of New York City. Subway shooting raises questions for riders about subway safety in New York City. From Kristen Thorne. Trains have resumed stops at the Brooklyn 36th Street subway station, which comes after chaos ensued on Tuesday morning. The horrific shooting is raising more questions for strap hangers about the subway safety. Strap hangers. Is that what you call people who ride the subway? I've never heard that term before. But I've also never set foot in the designated area that's called the City of New York either. So, some customers say all the pushing, stabbings, beatings, and shootings make them hesitant to ride. The shooting that injured 29 people who were shot or otherwise injured is the last thing the city needed in their quest to get people to ride again amid the pinko fucking pox pandemic. From what I see in my live chat every day, there's not a lot of problem with people riding the subway every day, even the affluent. Just 2 months ago, Mayor Eric Adams announced that his subway safety plan, including flooding the system with officers, and also having people that could reach out to the mentally ill that may be on the trains or platforms. He's now saying that he will again double the number of officers in the subway system, but will it be enough to reassure people? For months, the MTA and the city have been trying to convince riders that the subway is safe, but at the same time, we've been seeing nearly every single day incredibly violent images, shootings, stabbings, assault, people getting pushed into oncoming trains. It's not uncommon for people to hear from their friends and family members that they're not riding the subway right now, that they do not feel safe. After Tuesday's shooting, it will not be even harder for local and state leaders and MTA to. No, it will be even harder. It actually says it will not be even harder. No, it will be even harder for locals and state leaders and the MTA to reassure people that the subway is safe. This is a rarity, but one instance like this one is too many, Governor Hochul said. New Yorkers have just been through the pinko fucking pox. They've overcome the superstorm Sandy. They've been through the financial crisis, 9/11. They are incredibly strong, but also mindful of the need for all of us to team up and increase subway safety. Governor Adams made a commitment to, Mayor Adams made a commitment to subway safety just before this event, said Janno Lieber, MTA chairman and CEO. Just hours after the shooting, Governor Hochul released pictures of herself riding the subway so people could see that it was safe. Ah yes, a photo op from Kathy Hochul. Amazing. However, another thing that's making this problematic is that one of the cameras on the train where this incident happened was Shock! Not working. It must have had the same disease as the Epstein cameras, right? It just happens that as some massively left-wing figure, black nationalist, goes out to commit a terrorist attack on the same day that Brian Benjamin's being investigated and arrested for campaign finance law. The cameras aren't working. I'm shocked. I am so shocked. But that's what we see coming out of that. Brooklyn shooting survivor Horari Benkata says she sat next to the suspect on the train. From Nika Shakhnazarova. I'm going to change my last name to that. Shakhnazarova. My name is J. Edgar Shakhnazarova. Harari Benkata jumped on the last N-train carriage Tuesday morning and sat next to a man wearing an MTA vest with a duffel bag who would unleash bloodshed and terror minutes later. The 27-year-old detailed the chilling commute in an interview with CNN from his hospital bed. So, is this... Oh, that is a dude. I said she earlier. Where he was recovering from a gunshot wound in the back of his knee as he tried to flee the mass shooter's bullets. This makes me want to never ride a train again in my life, Benkata told CNN via FaceTime. I was on 59th Street on the ART train transferring to the N train on 59th. It was the first car, last seats, and I'm not just paying attention to that, so I walked in and sat down. The guy is next to me, but I didn't get a glimpse of his face. The NYPD continues to search for the gunman who caused the chaotic commute just before 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, but has named Frank James, 62, as a person of interest. Police say the keys found at the crime scene belonged to the U-Haul truck in Philadelphia that was rented by James. Benkata, a housekeeping manager at the New York hotel. Benkata watched the man detonate a smoke bomb before firing shots just seconds before the train left the station. Still visibly shaken, Benkata says, "I don't even know how I'm holding my phone," as he recounted what happened next. So, and I guess if you're in New York, anybody who has any tips as to where this guy was, he has hurt people and taken their stuff. So, go and get him. There's the Crime Stoppers number, 1-800-577-8477. And this guy's in a mask in a hospital. Alright. Here is an update off of this from, I believe this is the police commissioner. Let's have a short listen to this.
I want to begin by assuring the public that there are currently no known explosive devices on our subway trains, and this is not being investigated as an act of terrorism at this time. We can also report that although this was a violent incident, reportedly we have no one with life-threatening injuries as a result of this case. This investigation is only hours old, so please note this information is subject to change. I want to begin by assuring the public that...
So that was about mid-afternoon yesterday, and some more of the press conference here.
Just before 8:24 this morning, as a Manhattan-bound N train waited to enter the 36th Street station, an individual on that train donned what appeared to be a gas mask. He then took a canister out of his bag and opened it. The train at that time began to fill with smoke. He then opened fire, striking multiple people on the subway and in the platform. Again, we will describe him as an individual. He is being reported as a male black, approximately 5 feet 5 inches tall with a heavy build. He was wearing a green construction type vest and a hooded sweatshirt. The color is gray. At this time, we are working with our federal partners, where we are asking for the public's help. Anyone with information, videos, or photographs, no matter how insignificant they think it may be, is encouraged to call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. All calls are strictly confidential. Just before...
I make fun in New York and everything, but I do like that accent. I know that this is not what we're supposed to be paying attention to right now. We're supposed to be paying attention to the horrifying loss of life of this, but the war calls... And yeah, if you get me drunk enough, I start talking like that too. Just so we're not saying I'm making fun of people out of no whole cloth here. I do talk like that too sometimes. Hey, look, the Game Chops came back. All right, but that's what we see off of that. And again, if you know, I'm not a fan of going to the police for anything, but this guy has hurt people and taken their stuff, and I'm not cool with that. So that's what we see off of that. And then we've got some other stuff off of this as well. NYPD names person of interest in Brooklyn subway shooting. This is from News 12 out of Brooklyn. From News 12 staff. The NYPD has identified a person of interest in today's Brooklyn subway shooting as a man named Frank James, investigators stressed. However, that they do not know if James has any connection to the shooting, or if he is a sacrificial lamb. Which, given the incompetence of the government, is actually I wouldn't be surprised, let's put it that way. Earlier in the day, a gunman in a gas mask and a construction vest set off a smoke grenade and fired a barrage of at least 33 bullets in a rush-hour subway train, shooting at least 10 people on Tuesday, authorities said. Police were scouring the city for the shooter and trying to track down the renter of the van, possibly connected to the violence. A scene of horror unfolded as frightened commuters ran from the train as others limped out of it. At least one rider collapsed on the platform. 5 people were in critical condition, but expected to survive. At least 29 in all were treated at hospitals for gunshot wounds, smoke inhalation, and other conditions, according to the hospitals. Let's see what's happening here. No, they're waiting for a conference off of that one. So we'll skip that. Some more details off of this. Eric Adams had to speak on this, of course. My statement in this morning's shooting in Brooklyn.
My fellow New Yorkers, since early this morning, my team and I have been in constant communication with NYPD, FDNY, EMS, Emergency Management, and multiple other city agencies, as well as state and federal officials. First, let me say, we're praying for all New Yorkers who were injured or affected by today's attack. So far, we know that we have a multiple number of injuries, including victims of gunshot wounds. I wish to thank all of the first responders who responded to the scene or at the local hospitals, helping in today's incident. You are what make New York the greatest city in the world, and I thank you for supporting your fellow New Yorkers. To today's incident, as of now, we have not found any live explosive devices, but the suspect in today's attack detonated smoke bombs to cause havoc. We will not allow New Yorkers to be terrorized, even by a single individual. NYPD is searching for the suspect at large, and we will find him. But we ask the public to come forward with any information that may help us in this investigation. They can simply call 800-577-TIPS, 800-577-TIPS. We need your assistance.
They need your assistance. Another thing of NYPD executives providing an update. No. Another conference that we're going off to for this. So that's what they had to say for that. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. Social media posts from person of interest in connection to subway shooting show leftist views report. I wonder... I'm not going to lie to you right now. I wonder if this guy that they're naming actually did this, or if this is the sacrificial lamb. If they've come off and said, okay, well, we'll go in, do the trial. We'll get you a new name. We'll get you a new this. We'll get you a new that. But go in there, take the rap for this, and yeah, once you're in prison, we'll spring you, new face, new name, and nobody will ever hear from you again. Your record expunged, etc., etc., etc. From Ryan Saavedra. Social media posts from the person of interest connected to the mass shooting attack in the New York City subway Tuesday showed leftist, racist, anti-Trump views, according to reports. Police identified Frank R. James, 62, of Philadelphia, as a person of interest in the case, CBS News reported. They say James rented a U-Haul van that might be connected to the shooting. Videos from the attack on the subway showed that their air was filled with smoke from the bombs that had detonated. The suspect fired dozens of rounds during the attack, hitting at least 10 people. Another 19 were injured in the chaos that ensued from the attack. Heavy.com, a fact-finding website, identified a Facebook page allegedly belonging to the person of interest, which contained numerous posts that talked about shooting people and expressed their extreme views, including black nationalism. Andy Ngo, editor-at-large for the Post-Millennial, tweeted out screenshots from the Facebook that showed the post that promoted the Black Liberation Army, Black Lives Matter, a photo of the man who murdered 5 police officers in Dallas in 2016, a photo calling to kill all whiteys, post quoting the communist Cuban dictator Fidel Castro, post expressing support for shooting people, and post demonizing former President Trump. So, and we are going to look at this thread in its entirety. But the other thing that's going off with this is it's trending Waukesha right now over on Twitter. I've looked through some of the trend as well, and a lot of this is the stuff that came out from Andy Ngo, Matt Walsh. Subway suspect is a black supremacist. The Waukesha killer is a black supremacist. The guy who tried to assassinate a mayoral candidate is a black supremacist. The man who murdered the Capitol police officer was a black supremacist. In summary, white supremacy is the problem. Thank you, Walsh, for that. This is good news coming out of Waukesha. Their business breakfast. Bonchi says, reminder, the FBI has still not given any statement on the motive of the Waukesha massacre assailant. Despite the killer's open black nationalist rantings, you can expect the same treatment with the New York subway shooter. Reminder, the FBI has also not given a motive for the Vegas massacre, but yeah, we don't talk about that either. And on the other side, SM Sensible Middle. Don't buy the right's effort to politicize the NYC shooting by labeling the suspect a black nationalist. The defining trait of the suspect is mental illness. He literally called for blacks to be wiped off the face of the planet. Yeah, I'm sure that he didn't. So that is some of the stuff that goes along with Waukesha, but let's actually look through the Andy Ngo thread. And I stopped at this one, but this is, I think, halfway through the thread because there's some video here. Because he had some things to say about Ketanji Brown Jackson as well. Frank James, the person of interest in the Brooklyn subway mass shooting, has many videos on YouTube discussing his militant black nationalist views. But don't call him a black nationalist. He recently expressed disappointment that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is married to a white man. Let's listen.
I had no idea with that African name that she would be married to a white man. One of my subscribers brought that to my attention. Yeah. Our black sister, Supreme Court Justice, power to the people, is married to a fucking white man. You see this fucking picture? I don't believe this shit. Oh, God. Wait a minute. This is the motherfucker right there. He is. There he is. White man. Black sister. Ketanji, motherfucker name.
Whatever the fucking name.
I had no idea with that African name that she would be married.
Yeah, and I mean, when you listen to some of that's what they consider to be the defining crime of Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I knew this too. before the confirmation hearings. I already had interacted and argued back before any of the child porn stuff came out of this. I looked back at that and was just talking about the fact, and I had said on Twitter that Ketanji Brown Jackson should be confirmed, no hearings whatsoever, just shove her through 99-0, 100-0, or whatever the fuck it's going to be. Unanimous vote, shove her through. Get this out of the way before midterms so you don't get the bad ads coming out for this. Ketanji Brown Jackson was put up as a dare. I said that from the beginning, and even, just like this guy, the black nationalists hate her. Because she's married to a white man. She's not black enough for them. But I mean, let's look at some of the other stuff off of this here. Because Yo has done the Lord's work off of this one. Which, if it wasn't Yo, it would have been Candace Owens, obviously. I'm sure Candace is preparing her statement of everybody in the world, or every crime in the world that this guy's ever committed. Because she likes to dox people. Charlie Kirk is probably doing some of this too. But breaking NYPD named Frank James as a person of interest in the Brooklyn mass shooting. I looked into a social media like the Waukesha suspect and the Louisville BLM activist who allegedly tried to assassinate a mayoral candidate. He appeared to be a fan of black nationalism. Here's some of the stuff. The Crime Stoppers image. BLM. BLA, Black Liberation Army. Messenger of Allah. This one, I like you, I think I will kill you last. The quote tweet that's been deleted. Quote, of all things to remember this, every motherfucker respects a gunshot wound. You say you like Trump because he speaks what's on his mind. The rest of us know that's code for I like him because he's a fucking racist, and so am I. Of all things, remember this. Every motherfucker respects a gunshot wound. You may not be able to beat him, but you sure as hell can shoot him. It's a charming fellow, this Frank James. Quite the charmer. And here's a video that he had shouting racial insults in New York City.
Yeah, fuck you too. You see that shit all day, every day. You know? You see that shit all day, every day. White motherfucker gonna slam the door, like, you know, trying to slam it in my face. Yeah, fuck you and your white ass too, you white racist motherfucker. They had to throw that in for good luck. I don't get, listen, yeah, white racist motherfuckers, yeah, they do exist. They do fucking exist. Look at me, motherfucker, and they hate your guts too. Slant-eyed fucking piece of shit. All that shit you do in Vietnam, they not your fucking friend. They ain't your fucking friend, nigga. You're something less than human to them. You better get that in your fucking thick skull. Oh, I ain't not black. This color, see? Motherfucker, stinking bitch. Oh, war. Hey, man, great idea. But that's the best idea a fucking stinking spick could ever have. Let's kill each other. Prove what to you? Motherfucker, you shouldn't even exist. Prove what to you? You shouldn't even be the fuck on earth. You're a crime against fucking nation, you Spanish-speaking motherfucker. The fucking Spaniards fucked you and raped you into existence. What are you talking about? That goes to the fucking monkey-ass motherfucking nigga too, talking that fucking shit. Build a nation, another fucking nation Islam. I'm talking about a nation.
Well, we'll see if this video shows back up on YouTube tomorrow, because, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be on YouTube tomorrow. You might have to get this downloaded right away so we can turn around and put it back on Rumble, because, yeah, there is no way. I might get a strike on Twitch for this, but it is what it is, and it's documented at this point, so. Yes. So, yes, very charming gentleman, this one is. Very, very charming. Almost immediately, the report came out that this was not being investigated as a terror attack, to which the leftoids came out and says, it's not being investigated as a terror attack. I wonder if that means that the shooter had white skin. Well, if that's actually the person of interest that they're chasing, which, again, no idea if that's going to be the case. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But if it is this charming gentleman, then no, that does not clearly seem to be the case, now does it? So there is that. But while this was all happening here, this story was up and rife to be talked about. And in fact, it doesn't seem like a lot of people in New York are talking about this. From the Associated Press, New York Lieutenant Governor resigns after arrest in federal probe. From Marina Villanove and Tom Hayes. New York Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin resigned Tuesday in the wake of his arrest in a federal corruption investigation. Governor Hochul said creating a political crisis for her 7 months after she selected Benjamin as a partner to make a fresh start in an office already rocked by scandal. Benjamin, a Democrat, was accused of, in an indictment of participating in a scheme to obtain campaign contributions from a real estate developer in exchange for Benjamin's agreement to use his influence as a state senator to get $50,000 worth of grant of state funds for a nonprofit organization the developer controlled. Facing charges including bribery, fraud, conspiracy, and falsification of records, Benjamin pleaded not guilty Tuesday. At an initial appearance in the Manhattan federal court, he was released and bail was set at $250,000, which he probably went out and wrote a check for after he sold a bunch of stock. The terms of his release call for his travel to be restricted and bar him from returning to the state capital in Albany. He submitted his resignation to Hochul hours later. I've accepted Brian Benjamin's resignation effective immediately. While the legal process plays out, it is clear to both of us that he cannot continue to serve as Lieutenant Governor. New Yorkers deserve an absolute confidence in their government. They probably do, but I've been watching New York for many, many years, and that's like saying that Wisconsinites deserve confidence in their government. They might deserve it, but they're never going to get it. The teachers' union controls that city. Always has. That's like saying Illinoisans deserve confidence in Springfield, controlled by the mob in Chicago. Fuck, that's like California saying Californians deserve. That would be like Newsom coming out saying Californians deserve confidence in their government. Yeah, they deserve it. They're not going to get it. Because you've seen too much shit like this. Two lawyers representing Benjamin did not immediately respond to messages seeking comment. Hochul in September plucked Benjamin, then a state lawmaker, to serve as second in command when she became governor, taking over for Democrat Amy Cuomo when he resigned, amid allegations that he sexually harassed 11 women, which he denied, and killing grandma by putting all the COVID patients into the nursing homes. Hochul, also a Democrat, was Cuomo's lieutenant governor. She's now running for governor in this year's election, with Benjamin as a running mate. Well, probably not anymore. Hochul didn't immediately respond to our request for comment on Tuesday when asked who she will pick as her new lieutenant governor. New York Senate leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, a Democrat, stepped in to take on the duties of lieutenant governor until Benjamin's appointment. Oh, what do we have going on here?
Where will you work? Where will you work if you have to go to Albany?
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't you ask for the Northern District? Are you not planning to go to Albany?
We allege that Benjamin struck a corrupt bargain with a real estate developer referred to in the indictment as CC1. Benjamin allegedly directed a $50,000 state grant to a nonprofit organization controlled by CC1. And in exchange, Benjamin received tens of thousands of dollars of campaign contributions from CC1. Those contributions were directed both to Benjamin's State Senate Campaign Committee and to Benjamin's New York City Comptroller campaign. Taxpayer money for campaign contributions. Quid pro quo. This for that. We also allege that Benjamin repeatedly lied to cover up the bribery scheme, including by falsifying campaign forms and misleading city regulators. And we allege that Benjamin repeatedly lied on the vetting forms that he filled out before he was appointed lieutenant governor. That's a cover-up.
What happened in there, Council?
Where will you work? Where will you work if you can't go to Albany?
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't you ask for the Northern District?
Where will you work?
Needs government to work.
That's my favorite part of this. Where will you work? I don't know, probably somewhere far, far away from public finance. Maybe at Wendy's, who knows? But that's what we see off of that. And a couple follow-ups with that. Especially one going for Kathy Hochul herself, looking at the New York Post. What does Brian Benjamin's indictment mean for Hochul and New York Democrats? From Bernadette Hogan, Nolan Hicks, Carl Campanile, and Bruce Golding. I thought there was a video of this one, too. Let's hit a refresh real quick. I don't think there is. Ah, there was, but it's not the kind of thing that we were looking at earlier. The bribery indictment on Seal Tuesday against Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin won't affect his political future. It could also damage Kathy Hochul, who chose him as a running mate, in her bid for a full term in November. Following our answers to some questions about what the bombshell criminal case means for the scheduled June 28th Democratic gubernatorial primary, in which Hochul and Benjamin will appear separately on the ballot. Possibly. Can Benjamin be removed from the ballot? Possibly, but not easily, and likely not in time for the June 28th Democratic primary. Here's a really interesting question off of that. Is it possible? And it is. In this state it is, because he was on the ballot already to go for lieutenant governor. Could we possibly see a situation in New York? I don't know how popular Kathy Hochul herself is, because I've not been paying attention to her polls, but with the incumbent advantage, is it possible that we see Hochul and a Republican lieutenant governor? Is that a possibility? Is that something that we could see? And what does that mean? The only way to get off the ballot is death, disqualification, or moving out of state, State Board of Elections spokesperson John Conklin said. Well, considering he was arrested for campaign finance, I would call that disqualification. He was nominated or designated coming out of the state convention in February, and that period to decline to appear on the ballot has passed. The typical way most candidates get disqualified is if they're younger than 30, aren't U.S. citizens, or can't meet the state's residency requirements, Conklin said. Well, he's got a felony hanging over his head, so I would think that would be disqualifying. None of those now apply to Benjamin, a 45-year-old Harlem resident who served as state senator before Hochul picked him to be her number 2 last year. Who does number 2 work for? Following the former governor Andy Cuomo's resignation amid a sexual harassment scandal. But Benjamin could choose to move out of state, or he could lose his primary in June, Conklin said. What about his resignation? Resigning from office doesn't get him off the ballot, Conklin said, just hours before Benjamin did just that. The typical question is, could they open a new declination period? He would have to be nominated for a new office. Typically at this point in the year, it could be just a judicial office, but that wouldn't happen until the judicial convention in August. Benjamin, however, isn't a lawyer and therefore can't seek a judgeship under state law. Manhattan lawyer Sarah Steiner, who specializes in New York election law, said, "Right now we're looking at a situation where even if he resigns, he would be on the ballot and it would be very difficult but not impossible to get him off. What if Benjamin wins the primary?" Hochul and Benjamin would almost certainly appear together on the November 8th general election ballot unless he dies or moves out of state. And what about the gerrymandering case? Hochul, Benjamin, and other top Democratic lawmakers are appealing to a judge's ruling last month that tossed out the state's new congressional districts on grounds they were illegally gerrymandered to hurt Republicans. But don't worry, only Republicans ever gerrymander. Says the dumb fuck that tried arguing with me for an hour before Monday's show. "Oh, those are Republican districts that are gerrymandered like that." And we were looking at a map of Illinois. I said they were still decided by corrupt politicians from Chicago in Springfield, because that's who controls Springfield. I don't know if you know that or not. By a person who clearly has no idea how congressional maps are drawn. The party in power in the legislature draws the maps, send them out to the governor, which is Democrats in Springfield and J.B. Pritzker in Illinois, and the governor approves or denies based on pretty much political party at this point. Or you get a situation like we have in Wisconsin, where legislature, deep red, draws the maps, sends them out to the governor that was picked by Madison and Milwaukee, who vetoes them, and now the U.S. Supreme Court is in the process of redrawing our maps. Two judges have warned the Democrats that if they lose the appeal, the court-appointed expert would likely redraw the maps, but potentially not by August 23rd, the latest possible date to hold the primary election. So this does change a lot of things, and like I said, we saw a lot of conversation. I would almost guess and guarantee that if there was some deliberacy to what happened in Brooklyn, which I am not throwing out as a possibility, it was to take attention off of this. And we might never know this guy's motive because he might have been paid by the DNC to do so. And let's look at the other side of this. From New York Magazine's Curbed.com, who is the developer at the center of Brian A. Benjamin's legal mess? From Kim Velsey. Lieutenant Governor Brian A. Benjamin resigned this afternoon just hours after he was arrested and charged in Manhattan federal court with bribery, fraud, and falsification of records in connection with his unsuccessful 2021 run for New York City Comptroller. The indictment accuses Benjamin of conspiring to direct a state-funded grant to an organization controlled by a real estate developer in exchange for campaign contributions. Benjamin also, according to the indictment, engaged in a series of lies and deceptions to cover things up, including lying about it on his background check. The Harlem real estate investor, Gerald Migdal, who was arrested for his role in the scheme this past November, and was identified in the indictment only as CC1, short for Co-Conspirator 1, has apparently been cooperating. Migdal, who went on a brownstone buying spree in the 90s and early 2000s, seems to have focused on his more recent efforts on developing political connections, but who is he, and what exactly is he accused of doing? In January of 2021, the city reported a number of irregularities and contributions to Benjamin's campaign for comptroller. Among them, a number of $250 wire transfer contributions from people who, when contacted, said they had no idea who Benjamin even was. One transfer was in the name of Migdal's 2-year-old grandson. All came, Migdal's 2-year-old grandson knows who it is that he wants to support and can make that educated decision, just like he can make that educated decision on what his gender is. All came through an intermediary, Michael Murphy, who works at one of Migdal's nonprofits, Friends of Public School Harlem. Prosecutors later alleged that Migdal either paid for or refunded contributions from many others. The illegal contributions also would have, under New York City's generous campaign financing program, in which the first $100 of each donation is potentially eligible for $800 in matching public dollars, been a way to steal taxpayer money. Campaign Finance Board records show Benjamin's campaign identified 21 of the contributions Murphy steered to Benjamin as a match eligible, adding up to $16,800 in possible public dollars, according to the city. a New York City native and son of a plumber who went to Queens College. That's how Migdal got to his real estate career. I guess I missed the headline off of that. Went to Queens College and Benjamin Cardozo Law School. Migdal started making real estate investments after graduating from law school in '79, buying and rehabbing buildings on the Lower East Side with his father, according to an '06 profile in Real Estate Weekly. Essentially, we looked for the worst buildings on the best blocks and areas we felt would change, Migdal said. He shut down his company in '90 when the market crashed and went back to work for GFI Realty, and in the mid-'90s began buying properties again, this time Harlem brownstones, which were readily available for comparatively little money. He started the Migdal organization in '02. At first, he turned the houses into multi-unit rentals, but he started doing condo conversions around '06. A shift, he told the New York Post, was spurred by the rising cost of brownstones. When I started buying in '01, they were $200,000 and $300,000, and now it's $1 million for a shell, he said. If you want to make money, the secret is to buy low and sell high. Take your piece of the pie. That's not exactly a secret, but it's true nonetheless. Yes, the little pigeon in the stock market video for Schoolhouse Rock told us that. I wonder if I get popped if I played that. Maybe. Maybe one day. Migdal does not seem to have registered as a force with the city's more powerful real estate players, and the Migdal organization's website has no information about its holdings or investments. It describes Migdal as a Harlem-based company that provides specialized services in housing, development, social work, and law, though through its subsidiaries, the Migdal organization develops, manages, brokers, and owns various types of real estate throughout New York City. It does, however, have a quote allegedly from Hillary Clinton. It's possible Migdal was a big Democratic donor. I'm so impressed with Migdal's business model of a truly diverse firm that combines profit and nonprofit businesses in one organization. In a video on the website, Migdal, sitting next to his wife, Sherry Pearl, describes the company as though we're a social services organization that provides housing, security, legal services for the neighborhood and for the homeless population. Essentially, the entirety of the website is dedicated to the organization's nonprofit work with no indications of where or how it makes its money. So, a lot of stuff moving with this, and yeah, they come out and tell you that he is chummy with politicians and has a relationship with Benjamin, which is telling me, with all the money that's thrown out around here, especially with the ties to Hillary, that he's probably got some questionable stuff going on here. I would almost guarantee that's what's happening. But that's what we see off of that. So, with that, excuse me. A little bit of a frog in the old throat going off of there. New York is a bit of a mess right now. And they will be, once again, looking into seeing how to get people to feel safe on the subway. That's going to be the big one, which I can't even begin to understand that concept of feeling safe on the subway. And yes, I know that I've been pummeled with New York City propaganda since the 90s that says the subway's the only way to travel. But my God. My God. And then this whole thing with the lieutenant governor. And that's not even the stupidest stuff yet. Now we've actually got to go move into Biden stuff here. And this right here is my wheelhouse. This is the stuff that I know about. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on this. Biden to announce authorization of E15 gasoline in an effort to increase U.S. fuel supply and reduce gas prices. Anything but fucking drilling, I'm telling you. And once again, by the way, this isn't going to do anything for the diesel prices. Not on E15, which transport your goods and drives your inflation. Now, yes, I understand that we did see some gas price drop in speculation of this, because E85, E15, etc., your ethanol-based fuels, do run a little bit lower in cost per gallon. And then, of course, you go back out and try to convince people to go and buy them because they cost a little bit less per gallon. Well, let's reach from this first, and then I will let you know what's actually happening here. This is from Brooke Singman. President Biden on Tuesday is set to announce the EPA will allow E15 gasoline that uses a 15% ethanol blend, to be sold in the U.S. in this summer in an effort to expand Americans' access to affordable fuel supply amid the surge in gas prices across the nation. The EPA is set to issue a national emergency waiver. With the action, the White House said E15 cannot be used in most of the country from June 1st to September 15th. The EPA is expected to take final action to issue the emergency waiver closer to June 1st. E15 is currently offered at 2,300 gas stations in the country, where the admin officials say it can serve as an important and more affordable source of fuel. The waiver is set to help increase fuel supplies, give consumers more choice to get lower prices, and offer savings to American families, the White House said. According to the White House, the current prices, E15 can save a family 10 cents per gallon of gas on average. Yes, an E85 can save me 30 cents a gallon, but I still don't use it for a reason. And yes, I have a vehicle that can take E85. A senior admin official says the president's announcement would build on the progress of increasing fuel supplies and offering consumers more choices and flexibility and reduced gas prices. The EPA is also working to consider additional action to facilitate the use of E15 year-round. A senior admin official said utilizing E15 provides additional options for Americans at a time when we obviously have real challenges when it comes to oil and petroleum markets. Look at how high the solid blue strongholds are on this map. And how low the swing states are, the states that they're trying to change over too, by the way. I'm looking at you, Texas. This provides greater choice, savings, and also a source of fuel that's not dependent on an oil market, which right now is volatile as a result of Putin's actions in Ukraine, the official said. And of course, not what is coming out of the Biden admin as far as environmental policy. So I have a lot of problem with this. And again, this is coming from somebody who has been around this industry, who knows what's going on with this. First and foremost, as I said, not every vehicle can use this. If you don't have the little leaf or the little emblem that says flex fuel on the back of your vehicle, or a specific notation in the literature of your vehicle, you can't use this. Most GM products cannot use this. EcoBoost Ford can't use this. You cannot put E85 or E15 in an EcoBoost. I believe a Civic you can. By the way, you can use this in gas power. My V8 Ford, I can use both E15 and E85. I have flex fuel. I won't, unless I'm going up through the mountains or holding a load or something. I'll explain that in a moment. But most vehicles can't use this. If you try to put this in EcoBoost, you will be putting turbos in and a head within the year. At least one head, if you've got two heads. Because you have a V6, you'll be putting two heads in. If you put this in a turbocharged vehicle, which is most of your imports at this point, and most of your Japanese imports, most of your German imports, same thing. You're going to be putting a head on, and probably a turbo at some point too. Direct inject? Good luck. Good luck. Direct inject vehicles? No. None of this can handle the C85. And this is technology that's moving more and more. Not only that, but as we go back into history, the ability to take flex fuel is relatively recent. I think that all of that started... When did all that start? 2010? I think it was 08 or 2010 when all this started. And anything prior to that also cannot take this kind of fuel. You've got a very, 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 very narrow pool of vehicles that can even use this fuel effectively. And with the ones, and I said, I don't, because I can take E85, I can take E15, but I don't. If I put E85 in my truck and go for a trip, I will get, on average, 100 to 150 miles fewer per tank. When I drive on the highway, when I go, like when we drove from here to DC and DC to Orlando, I was averaging 22 miles a gallon out of a V8. If I'd have done that same trip on E85, I'd have been averaging 17. Now, one of the advantages of using E85, and the reason that they don't, especially for E15, the reason they don't use it in the summer is that it's a little bit more potent, it's a little bit more energy dense, which is why you get a little bit less fuel economy out of it, because it still has to burn at a similar rate. And it does give you a little bit more power. Like if I was going to tow something really heavy outside of the range of what my truck would normally tow, I would use the 85, hands down. And I do notice a power differential when I use the 85. But it comes at the cost of 150 miles per tank. So, no thank you. And it does pollute more as well, which is the reason the EPA... The energy density is the reason they let you use it in the winter, because, you know, you'll come back, you'll warm up a little bit more. You'll warm up your vehicle a little bit quicker because it runs a bit hotter. And you'll get into that open loop cycle when your O2 sensors are warmed up. I know I'm talking a lot of technical stuff right now. I understand. Bear with me for a moment. So with the idea that your open loop hits faster means that you're into the more metered aspect of your fuel in the winter. Quicker. That's the reason that they'll allow it in the winter, but they usually ban it out in the summer, because usually at that point it's warm enough that you get into open loop pretty quick. Your vehicle warms up pretty quick and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So with that being said, yeah, now they're going to go back and use this year round, a heavier polluting fuel that gets lower gas mileage, and this is going to be the solution for the gas crisis. Fuck you. You know what it is you need to do, and all you're trying to do is continue to go on and put a band-aid around it so you can get through election year and then blame it all on Republicans. Like I said, I was going to spend some time on this no matter what, because this is my wheelhouse. This is what I know. A lot of the political stuff I do have to research and make sure that I know what I'm talking about. As soon as I saw this, I'm like, I know what's going on here. And this is going to fuck everything up even more. From Axios. Biden announces E15 gas waiver for summer in a bid to lower prices. From Ivana Sarik. President Brandon announced Tuesday that he will waive the summertime ban on E15 gasoline in an effort to combat soaring gas prices. A new inflation report released Tuesday revealed the inflation spiked to 8.5% in March, the highest rate in over 40 years. Oh, I didn't even touch on that. And by the way, none of this that we just talked about, what we just talked about a moment ago with how we're going to do this with consumer prices on gasoline, none of that affects diesel. Not a drop of this affects diesel, which transports your goods to and from the store. Just remember that. Driving the news, E15 contains a mix of regular gasoline and 15% corn-based ethanol, rather than 10% of ethanol that standard gas contains per CNN. Because E15 gas contains less crude oil, which is currently very expensive, switching to E15 could lower gas prices, though the energy experts contend the impact could be minimal, per the New York Times, a former newspaper. Well, yes, like I said, you're getting lower gas mileage in exchange. It's probably going to wind up costing most families more to go with the E15. E15 used to be available year-round until 2011 when the EPA moved to ban it during the summer per CNN. The EPA will issue an emergency waiver to allow E15 to be sold from June 1st to September 15th, according to a White House fact sheet issued on Tuesday. The summertime ban was instituted in the first place over concerns that E15 gas can contribute to smog and hot weather per the Times. Late last month, Brandon ordered the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to release 1 million barrels per day on average for the next 6 months in an effort to help bring down the gas prices. Yep, that's Biden. I'm here today because homegrown biofuels have a role to play right now, Biden said during a visit to an ethanol plant in Menlo, Iowa. President Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world, he added. And again, we're not mentioning what happened before the invasion because why would we do a thing like that? The EPA is planning to issue an emergency waiver allowing E15 gasoline that uses more ethanol from homegrown crops to be sold across the U.S. this summer in order to increase fuel supply. E15 is 10 cents cheaper than E10, sometimes even more, Biden said. It's not going to solve all our problems. That's not going to happen until I'm 25th out. But it's going to help some people, and I'm committed to do whatever I can do to help, even if it's an extra buck or two, and the pockets as they fill up more and more often. So it'll make a difference in people's lives. This whole decision right there is one that's telling me right now that this administration doesn't have a fucking clue. And they know it. And CNN wants to tell you what this all is too. What are the pros and cons of E15 gas? Here's what you need to know about Biden's orders. I just told you what you need to know about Biden's order. But CNN is going to come out and propagandize to tell you everything that's great because this is CNN. From Ella Nilsson. President Biden announced Tuesday that his admin will lift the summertime ban on E15 to help ease gas prices. Will this action save drivers a significant or even noticeable amount of money at the pump? Experts tell CNN it depends on a number of factors, including when your car was made, how fuel efficient it is to begin with, and even your driving behavior. But more ethanol in gas tanks this summer could mean more smog, which is a health risk, particularly for people with respiratory illnesses. Here's what to know about E15. What is E15 fuel and can all vehicles use it? E15 is a mix of regular gasoline and a smaller amount of ethanol, a plant-based fuel typically made from corn in the US. The 15 in the name means that it includes 15% ethanol. Even regular gasoline typically has up to 10% ethanol blend, so E15 is just more biofuel in your gas. The logic behind Biden's order is that gas that requires less crude oil, which is very expensive right now, could help ease gas prices. E15 is safe for most cars manufactured in 2001 later. That's a lie. That is a flat-up lie. And most car companies say it's fine to use. Also a lie. However, some car manufacturers recommend not using it for certain models. To be completely sure, Gas Buddy's head of petroleum analysis, Patrick DeHaan, said car owners should consult their owner's manuals before filling up on E15, especially to ensure you're not doing something that could void your car's warranty later on. Like blowing the injectors out or blowing the fucking cylinder head off. Other gas-powered things that cannot use E15, according to the Department of Energy: motorcycles, heavy-duty vehicles, because they're diesel, boats, snowmobiles, chainsaws, gasoline lawnmowers, and if you own a passenger vehicle made before 01, you shouldn't use E15 in it. You should only use E15 if your vehicle is designated specifically that it's flex fuel. Any auto manufacturer will tell you that, and will tell you not to use it in a turbocharged vehicle, or a supercharged vehicle for that matter. How much cheaper will E15 gas be? The Biden admin estimates gas prices will be, on average, about 10 cents cheaper after EPA waives the E15 during the summer months. E15 is about 10 cents per gallon cheaper than E10. Some gas stations offer an even bigger discount than that, Biden said at a news conference in Iowa, a state that's prided itself on ethanol production. But many of the gas stations that sell it are required to stop selling it in the summer, Biden continued. But with this waiver, on June 1st, you're going to show up and see a bag over the pump with the cheapest gas, and you're going to be able to keep filling up with E15, and it's going to solve a whole problem. DeHaan estimated that realistic savings at the pump could range from 5 to 10 cents. But again, you'll be filling up more often, because ethanol gets lower fuel economy. Always has, always will. That might not even be enough to counter the severe spikes in gas prices that have been slow to come back down, even as the price of crude has fallen. But even if it doesn't feel like a real relief, DeHaan underscored that every little bit can help customers. It's something, he said. Everything's going to be different. And I think most Americans will scoff at 5 to 10 cents, but it's real savings. It's not going to feel like much relief, but it's another option, and it's good to have options. Filling up the car from empty to full, drivers could be looking at anywhere from 45 cents to $1 total savings for small cars. With small gas tanks for largest vehicles, savings could be around $2 to $3. So, that's what CNN is trying to tell you, but they are, as usual, incorrect. Let's have some more Biden news. Bird poops on Biden as he claims U.S. is in dumps because of Putin. Yes, the buck stops here, President. It's because of Putin! It's Putin's fault, man! Come on!
Work we're doing to lower costs for American families and put rural America at the center of our efforts to build a future that's made in America. And that's not hyperbole. It's about being made in America. A lot of that has to do with this industry.
Right there.
Today to talk about the work we're doing to lower costs for American families and put rural America at the center of our efforts to build a future that's made in America. And that's not hyperbole. It's about being made in America. A lot of that has to do with this industry.
Right there. I love the closed captioning too. Upbeat, funky music. Not even the birds approved of President Biden in Iowa on Tuesday as a winged spectator defecated on the beleaguered commander-in-chief as he gave a speech inside of a barn. I mean, I've heard that's supposed to be good luck. But I mean, I get up and, for the most part, every morning shit on Biden, so why shouldn't a bird do it too? Biden's blue suit took a direct hit as he began a 25-minute address in which he blamed U.S.'s 8.5% annual inflation rate on Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine rather than his own actions. I'm here today to talk about what we're doing to lower costs for American families and put rural America back at the center of our efforts to build a future that's made in America, Biden said, moments before he was struck. That's not hyperbole. The president didn't seem to notice the white splatter just above his U.S. flag lapel pin and continued speaking, next to an enormous pile of cornmeal, about his decision to allow higher amounts of ethanol gasoline this summer. After he finished his remarks, Biden mingled with a couple of guests at the facility, none of whom notified him of the unsightly addition to his attire. God, he looks dazed and confused. Biden's trip was booked to announce the Environmental Protection Agency rule change allowing gas with 15% ethanol to be sold after June 1st, when ethanol gas is ordinarily limited to 10%, due to smog concerns as annual inflation spiked in March after trending higher for months. So, good aim, Mr. Bird. Alright, let's throw the F's up. From NBC News. Gilbert Gottfried, iconic comedian, dies at 67 after long illness.
Well, look here! This is what we're gonna find out about this here. We gotta figure out what it is that I died from.
From Sabah Hamidi. Comedian Gilbert Gottfried has died. His family said he was 67.
We are heartbroken to announce the passing of our beloved Gilbert Gottfried after a long illness,
his family wrote in a statement shared to his Twitter account. Gottfried died at 2:37 Eastern Time Tuesday from a recurrent ventricular tachycardia due to myotonic dystrophy type 2, Glenn Schwartz, his longtime friend publicist, says. Gottfried, who performed stand-up for 50 years, became known as the comedian's comedian because his live performances put aside political correctness while he delivers jokes that know no boundaries, his representative said in a statement. Can I do this without getting popped?
3 minutes is a pretty short time to make a good impression, but comedian Gilbert Gottfried has managed to do that in his short but very funny appearance as the accountant in Beverly Hills Cops 2. Gilbert joins us this morning to talk about his new success that was years in the making. Morning.
Yes, it's just been years. Just been years in the making. It's been years in the making.
A lot of people, I think, when they heard your name, are thinking, "Who is that?"
Yes.
Who is Gottfried?
Yeah, I think, but I'll tell you, I can assure you, by the end of this year, they'll still be saying that. In fact, maybe they might be saying, "Who was that?" and "How did he ever get on television?"
Well,
they'll say, "Remember there was that guy, Gilbert Gottfried? I think the Today Show was it," and then nothing ever happened to him after that.
That was the last the world saw of him. Were you always the funny kid in school, or did you just sort of wander into this?
No, I'm the funny kid in school now.
You're back in school?
Yes, I'm back in school. I've been held back. I'm still in the 4th grade. And yes, I've been held back quite a number of times.
What would you like to be doing?
I'd like to have a company with my own lines of moisturizers and facial creams.
Well, hang around for a couple minutes. Chris Everett's out in the hall. We'll get her to give you some tips on how that works.
Yes, but I'd like mine to be much more expensive.
So top of the line department stores instead of the drugstores?
Yes, the kind that no one can afford, but all things everyone else owns.
What about your facial complexion would make people want to buy this product?
Yes, well, I get mine painted each morning with a roller, and, that generally helps me out.
What's next for you if the cosmetics don't work out career-wise?
What's next for me is I think what happens to everyone whose career is over. I'll do parts on the Love Boat. And, I'll be like, they'll see me and they'll say, "God, he weighs 600 pounds now, and look at the bags under his eyes."
I knew him when.
Yeah, and they go, "God, he looks terrible now."
Gilbert Gottfried, thanks for being with us, and continued success.
Oh, thank you for being with me.
Yeah, that guy was a legend. He was really good at this. His comedic career led roles in Beverly Hills Cop 2, Problem Child, Look Who's Talking To, The Aristocrats, and other films. He was also the voice of the wisecracking parrot Iago in Disney's iconic animated film Aladdin.
Look at me, I'm molting!
Most recently, in 2017, he was the subject of a documentary, Gilbert, about his life. He also co-hosted a podcast, Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast, in which he and Frank Santopadre interviewed Hollywood icons and legends. His family described him as the most iconic voice in comedy, as well as a wonderful husband, brother, friend, and father to his 2 young children. Yeah, I mean, you always knew. It didn't take long before you knew what that voice was. You knew that voice. So, Godspeed, Mr. Gottfried. So that's what we see off of that. Gilbert Gottfried's cause of death revealed. We are heartbroken. From Hannah Sparks. Fans were shocked by the sudden death of iconic comedian Gilbert Gottfried, who was just 67 when he passed on Tuesday. His family called him the most iconic voice in comedy as they confirmed the devastating news in a statement Tuesday afternoon, saying, "We are heartbroken and sharing only that he died following a long illness." Gottfried's representative, Glenn Schwartz, had since shared that the actor succumbed to a heart abnormality called recurrent ventricular tachycardia, an arrhythmia caused by myotonic dystrophy type 2. Myotonic dystrophy is a genetic disorder marked by progressive muscle wasting and weakness, which predominantly affects the limbs and face, but can create increasingly dire complications for respiratory, skeletal, and cardiac muscles. People with DM are at higher risk for irregular heartbeat, including ventricular tachycardia and arrhythmia in the lower chambers of the heart that causes the heart to beat faster, a sustained sped-up rhythm that can cause a fatal drop in blood pressure. Yeah, everybody knew that voice. Gottfried's heart condition has been publicly known for some time. On the cusp of the pandemic, he canceled a series of live appearances in Montana, as his doctors reportedly advised that he refrained from flying during a viral outbreak due to his weakened heart. So, yes, Godspeed. A little bit of a fun one here as we close out and catch up on some of the other things that are going on here. This one, I actually got involved with this one. People push back after Jill Filipovic claims that men with stay-at-home wives are more sexist than men with working wives. And in fact, I could probably go back and find the tweet thread and we could talk about that as well. Let's actually do that. Let's read the tweet thread. So let me go back and find what I quote tweeted here. Where is it? There it is. So here is the thread. This is a link to her Substack, of course. No, it's not feminist policy or good for women to pay parents, mothers, to stay home. Pay people for care work sounds good. The problem with paying people to stay at home with kids, though, is that one, we're overwhelmingly not talking about people, we're talking about mothers. And two, pushing women out of the work comes with overwhelmingly negative consequences. And this is the one that I quote tweeted out with the and from Dude, Where's My Car? The career/earner nuclear family model we think of as traditional is a historic anomaly that's tremendously isolating and often financially devastating for the carer, not career, almost always a woman. It also reinforces the gendered division of labor, which ripples out to all women. Okay, and we need a robust social welfare state. No one should be living in poverty, not adults, certainly not children. You don't solve that problem, though, by paying mothers a small stipend. You solve it by giving poor people enough money to live, period. Okay, where does that money come from? More mothers at home make for worse, more sexist men who see women as mommies and helpmeets. Men with stay-at-home wives are more sexist than men with working wives. They don't assess women's workplace contributions fair. I think she means to say fairly, but she says fairy, which, I mean, this whole thing is a fairy tale anyway. And they're less likely to hire and promote women. Stay-at-home mothers are psychologically and emotionally worse off than working mothers by just about every measure, from depression to anxiety to anger. They are much more likely than working mothers to say that they are struggling and less likely to say that they are thriving. A better model is a paid parental leave policy that heavily incentivizes men to take significant time off work too, especially in the earliest weeks so the child can be cared for at home by its parents for the first year of life, then universal high-quality childcare, which means the state raising your children while you go to work to be your wage slave. Also, just give people a little extra money when they have babies. From where? And don't consign people to living in poverty. Several European countries have child payments, and that makes sense. Yes, and several European countries also have their military paid for by us. And the Libertarian Redhead official, the red-haired Libertarian official, Queen Josie, says, history, the nuclear family model works. Feminist. I reject your model. Also feminist. Smart, successful, wealthy, and single. What the fuck? And she got rightly ripped for this. People push back after Filipovic claims that men with stay-at-home wives are more sexist than men with working wives. From Alex Nitzberg. Jill Filipovic asserted in a tweet on Tuesday that men who have stay-at-home wives are more sexist compared to husbands whose wives work a job. More mothers at home makes for worse, more sexist men who see women as mommies and helpmeets. Men with stay-at-home wives are more sexist than men with working wives. They don't assess women's workplace contributions fairly, and they're less likely to hire and promote women, tweeted Filipovic, who says in her Twitter bio that she's a writer, lawyer, and author. Many women find fulfillment by choosing to be a stay-at-home mom. Unsurprisingly, Filipovic's comments led to pushback from people on Twitter. Kimberly Ross tweeted, and here I was, excited to leave full-time employment outside the home to become a stay-at-home mom. I thought it was going to be sham. Stay-at-home mom by choice, who also writes on the side. It was and continues to be a great decision for me and my family. I absolutely do not regret it. I see my wife as a mother, among other things. I think that job is 1,000 times more difficult and more important than writing at Substack, but apparently that makes me sexist, National Review senior writer David Harsanyi tweeted. My husband is a VP at a bank and hires and promotes women all the time. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 31 years, and none of what you say is true, another person tweeted. That ginger is married, MK Ultra. We don't do that for married women. My husband is far from sexist, and I'm joyed with this life the Lord has given me. Women are nothing more than an easy-to-replace number in the working world. At home, they're someone's world. They're irreplaceable. More moms in the home creates a healthier and stronger society, someone else tweeted. So, yeah, she got rightly pushed back off of this because, I hate to say it, we'll borrow a segment from the R-rated conservative for this one, but this is your official cunt of the day. Wait, do I have to put on the thick Italian Boston accent for that? This is your cunt of the day, alright? The coveted Cunt of the Day Award. California has considered a shortened 32-hour work week for larger companies. From Michelle Fox. A shortened work week may become the reality for many employees in California. There you go. Make it more expensive to get dock workers, because now you have to start paying them overtime at 32. That'll solve the supply chain issue. Dumb fucks. Legislation is now working its way through the state legislature that would make the standard work week 32 hours for companies with more than 500 workers. There would be no cut in pay, and those who work more would be compensated at a rate of no less than 1.5 times the employee's regular rate of pay. Oh, there would be a cut in pay, all right, because, and I go through this every week. You're going to start seeing people who realize they can't afford to pay time and a half at 8 hours, and everybody's going to get cut to 32 fucking hours a week. You dumb motherfucker. It doesn't make sense that we're still holding on to a work schedule that served the Industrial Revolution, Assemblymember Christina Garcia, one of the bill's sponsors, said in a statement. While the shift is long overdue, the pinko pox pandemic and Great Resignation, also known as the Great Reshuffle, because they don't want to say that people are leaving the workforce, because that undermines their unemployment narrative, have made it clear the time to make the change is now, she said. Nearly 48 million Americans walked away from their jobs last year, and the trend is still going. Almost 4.4 million workers quit in February alone, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. There has been no correlation between working more hours and better productivity, Garcia said. However, the California Chamber of Commerce opposes the bill, calling it a job killer because it will end up imposing more costs on businesses. Ding, 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 ding! Labor costs are often one of the highest costs a business faces. Ashley Hoffman, a public policy advocate at the California Chamber of Commerce, wrote in a letter to the Assembly member Evan Lowe, another Democrat sponsor of the bill. Such a large increase in labor costs will reduce businesses' ability to hire or create new positions and will therefore limit job growth in California. Yeah. And I typically do have about 42 to 44 hours worth of work a week. In fact, I could probably push it a little bit further if I had to, but because of restrictions in the Pinko Pox, and other sides of this, unless at the dealership you are working on the floor turning a wrench, you are capped at exactly 40 hours, and a second more and you're talking to HR. 1 second over 40 hours and you're talking to HR. Because they can't afford to pay the time and a half. And now you want to start this time and a half at 32? Get the fuck out of here. McConnell is betting Sinema's opposition to rolling back the Trump tax cuts will sink Build Back Bullshit's comeback. This is from Joseph Zibolis-Roig. Mitch McConnell believes that Sinema's opposition to raising tax rates on large companies and wealthy Americans could be enough to sink Democrats' efforts to revive their stalled climate and social bill. That's not who was benefited by that, and you know that, Business Insider. That is a line of full-on propaganda. I'm not a wealthy American, and Turn Some Pages Productions is by no means a large company. Fuck, we're not even off the ground yet, and yet I saw tax relief from this. The part that gets me, the part that makes me angry about this, it's not that their stupid fucking simps believe it. It's that they are so willing to lie to get a preferred outcome that is clearly, we can see it over and over again, worse, as inflation is screaming out of control. And we're talking about releasing a stipulation of people being able to use a gasoline that they can only use half the year in 10% of the vehicles on the road anyway. And you have to come out here and tell us that the tax cuts that clearly affected my sub $50,000 a year home in a good way were only for wealthy Americans? Fuck you. Sinema is unenthusiastic about tax hikes, he said at a Kentucky Chamber of Commerce event on Tuesday. Hopefully that will be enough to keep this thing underwater permanently. It comes as the Arizona Democrat cracked the door open to a slimmer deal in remarks at a National Federation of Independent Business Tax Summit last week, saying she's always willing to take part in negotiations. Democrats must reach unanimity to pass any smaller spending bill in the 50-50 Senate and overcome GOP opposition. Last fall, Sinema came out against rolling back swaths of the 2017 tax cuts, a key Democratic priority because they hate the fucking poor people. That forced Biden to publicly concede the law was probably here to stay. But that position is complicated by Joe Manchin of West Virginia. One of his chief demands is rolling back the same law that Sinema is fighting to preserve. Which is why I told you, for all the fucking people who are simping for Manchin, he is not on your side either. He is not. He wants the wage slaves, just like every other Democrat. He's just not willing to sign his name to a $3.5 trillion pork barrel package while being a Democrat in deep red West Virginia. But he is a machine Democrat through and through. Wage slaves, imported illegal immigrant labor, and fuck what the rest of you do. So that's what we see off of that. From Fox 10, more Sinema news. Sinema calls for boost in U.S. oil drilling amid Ukraine war. Drill, baby, drill. Do keep in mind that this woman is also not the solution to all your problems. Remember what she is. Communist turned Green Party, but I repeat myself, turned Democrat, but I repeat myself again, to somehow moderate. No, this is not your friend. Laud her when she makes the right decisions, but keep a close eye on her, because she will turn around and stab you right in the fucking back. U.S. Senator Sinema called for an increasing domestic oil drilling to make up for the loss of Russian imports that has contributed to high prices at the pump. The Arizona Democrat, who is often at odds with the progressive wing of her party, called for an all-of-the-above strategy, which generally means promoting the production of both renewable and fossil fuels. She said the U.S. dependence on foreign oil jeopardizes its security and that of its allies. The reasonable way to address what's going to be an oil shortage in America is for us to responsibly increase our own domestic oil production, Sinema told business executives at the luncheon for the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The U.S. cut off imports of oil and gas from Russia after the invasion of Ukraine, but Russia remains a major energy supplier to Europe. Yeah, there's that. We can help our European allies do the same, but it's incumbent on us to help fill that gap, Sinema said. Always has been. So, again, good idea, but this person, if you are for small government, for lower taxes, if you are for freedom in the American dream, this woman is not your friend. Marjorie Taylor Greene says joining the military is throwing your life away. From Ewan Palmer. I think this video is that too, so let's listen. Oh, we have no volume.
Blue check marks get their. The Democrats are the party of pedophiles. The Democrats are the party of princess predators from Disney. The Democrats are the party of teachers, elementary school teachers trying to transition their elementary school age children and convince them they're a different gender. This is the party of their identity, and their identity is the most disgusting, evil, horrible things happening in our country. And that's why we have to say it. We have to be willing to say it, and no matter how many little blue check marks get their feelings hurt on Twitter.
Unfortunately, and again, it's not that Greene is saying the wrong thing. She is. It's always been to me that she says the right thing a little too perfectly, a little too scriptedly, at a little bit too perfect time. Always. I still think that she's a plant. But what she just said had nothing to do with what's in the article here. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has said joining the military is like throwing your life away due to President Biden's foreign policies. Speaking to former Fox News host Lou Dobbs, on April 9th, Greene listed other reasons why people should not join the military, including the vaccine mandate and woke training. Green made the remarks after Dobbs questioned the quality of people that are in the Defense Department and Biden's admin, and suggested the military was struggling to attract new recruits because people have seen the way that they're treated. The military has said it's been struggling to recruit in the wake of the pinko pox pandemic, with the U.S. Army reported it didn't meet its goal for new members in late 2021. In January, the Army offered $50,000 in bonuses to those who can commit to 6 years of service in order to help the dwindling numbers. During the interview, Dobbs questioned why people should join the U.S. military if they would be enlisted as boots on the ground to fight wars abroad, with around 100,000 American service members currently deployed across Europe amid Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Dobbs also suggested people will be turned off from enlisting in the wake of Biden's withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan last August. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff that's, making it harder and harder to go for the military, because the narrative is breaking down. People are starting to realize, look, when I was getting out of high school, I actually did want to be a Marine when I was getting out of high school, but the academics that were around me saw my eidetic memory and said, no, you must go to 4-year college no matter what, because you must be put out and indoctrinated in the ways of the woke. I would have loved to be a Marine. Plus, I love the taste of crayons. But regardless of that, that's neither here nor there. A lot of what was driving that was, remember, I turned 18 in 2002. When I was 17, I watched the September 11th attacks, and I watched members of my class who were able to get into the National Guard as 17-year-olds with parents' permission jump up and start doing that in a hurry, in a massive hurry. Because of what had happened over there, and the narrative was coming off the news that if we didn't go over and glass over Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the entire Arabian Peninsula, if we didn't turn that into a sheet of glass with boots on the ground everywhere, it meant that the terrorists were winning. That narrative is going away in a hurry. I've always said I disagree with the spending policy of the Trump administration. I disagree with the cultural policy of the Trump administration. I disagree with a lot of the decisions made based on, let's face it, Zionism of the Trump administration. But one of the greatest things that Donald Trump did as president was made war a dirty word. Among a large swath of the people who would be sending kids out to war. The elites, your business leaders, your CEOs, they're not going to send people out to war. They're not going to send their kids out there. Their kids are going to go to college. And in fact, they'll get collegiate exemptions and stay in college for 10, 15 years so they don't have to get drafted. Or sign up, or enlist, or anything else. So they're exempt from all the military kinds of things. But the people from backwoods Wisconsin, from Idaho, from Oklahoma, from flyover US, that are poor, some of them living in a dirt shack, some of them driving a 40-year-old vehicle. Those are the people who are going to go to war. Those are the people whose kids are going to go to war. And one of my favorite things is the fact that this foreign war thing has become such a dirty word. I'm so happy for that. And yes, it's getting harder and harder to get the numbers. And yet still, we still have a very, very well-regulated militia in this country. So if they ever do decide to come back out and launch over onto this country, which was the propaganda after September 11th, is that that's the next thing, is they're going to do a ground invasion in this country. But if they ever do, behind every blade of grass, a well-regulated militia necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. From the Blaze, video shows frustrated Target shopper stepping in to stop thief, rip bin from his hand. Stop that shit, man. Get a fucking job. From Bill Shiver. Police in Colma, California announced this week they have arrested and charged the brazen shoplifter who was seen being confronted by a shopper in a video that circulated on social media since last month. Which, oddly enough, I have not seen it. The dramatic video shows the reported thief, 20-year-old Samuel Belcorta of San Francisco, shamelessly carrying a bin of stolen items through the exit doors of a Bay Area Target on March 16th when suddenly an unarmed shopper approaches him and rips the bin from his hands. The unidentified Target shopper, evidently fed up with rampant crime in the area, yelled at the Belcorta, a repeat offender, to stop what he was doing. Let's watch. We might have done this too early. This might be my white pill of the day. We might come back to this.
Stop! Stop! Stop that shit, man! Get the fucking job! Stop! Hey!
That's crazy. They can't do nothing.
The random shopper's actions perfectly encapsulate the sentiment that many Americans have undoubtedly felt amid the country's ongoing crime wave. That is, frustration upon witnessing shoplifters and other opportunistic criminals carrying out lawless deeds with little consequence in Democrat-controlled jurisdictions. So, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. That's my white pill for the day. Another one for you here. CNN Plus struggles to lure viewers in its early days, drawing fewer than 10,000 daily users. Ha 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 ha. From Alex Sherman. Fewer than 10,000 people are using CNN Plus on a daily basis 2 weeks into its existence, according to people familiar with the matter. The people spoke with CNBC on the condition of anonymity in order to discuss non-public data. CNN Plus launched March 29th, the subscription news streaming service, which charges $5.99 a month or $59.99 annually, only became available on Roku on Monday and still isn't on Android TV. Still, the paltry audience cast doubt on the future of the application following the recent completed combination of Discovery and Warner Media into Warner Brothers Discovery. To put that daily user number in perspective, CNN's cable network suffered a sharp decline in viewership last year, but still rang up an average of 773,000 total viewers a day. That's a lot. Well, there are a lot of people that go to the gym and a lot of people that fly, so we continue to be happy with the launch and its progress after only 2 weeks, a CNN spokesperson said. CNN sought to make a huge splash with CNN Plus, luring big-name talent from rival networks such as Casey Hunt from NBC News and Chris Wallace from Fox News. But there's broad skepticism whether there's enough demand to sustain a standalone news streaming service, with entertainment-first options dominating the landscape. Disney Plus, for example, posted more than 10 million subscribers on its first day, but a lot of that had to do with the Clone Wars and Star Wars. Do keep in mind. Who wants to pay money to CNN? That's my big question. Like, who has so much money that they want to pay to stream CNN when you can just do this? What are the pros and cons of E15 gas? Here's what's to know about Biden's orders. Every piece of content that they put out is online for free. And if you have an ad blocker, you don't have to give them a commercial for it. And if you don't have an ad blocker, you can archive it. Why in God's name would you pay money to CNN? And if they ever put the ad blocker block up, that's what it starts to look like. You archive it and you get around the ad blocker. And I'm not even detracting on the 4 fans that CNN actually has. If that's what they want to do to indoctrinate themselves, then that's fine. Do that. But why the fuck would you pay for it? That's the thing that gets me. I didn't even pay for cable because I don't want to give these cocksuckers money. All right. 2 more, and then we're done. Oklahoma governor signs bill to make abortion illegal. And the country wept. Because they've been completely brainwashed into believing that with this bill in place, they're going to get shoved into an alley somewhere. Are there even alleys in Oklahoma? And forcibly raped by a white man and forced to carry his baby to term. From Sean Murphy. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed a bill into law on Tuesday that makes it a felony to perform an abortion, punishable by up to 10 years in prison as part of an aggressive push in Republican-led states across the country to scale back abortion rights. Now, with this being said, if you want to go back and find a way to lose in the midterms, which with this, it might happen, this is the way to do it. For something that I normally agree with. I just wish the government didn't have to get involved in it. But for an action that I normally agree with. Why do you have to go and kill babies? It's not a baby! Good, could you just not fuck? The bill, which takes effect in 90 days after the legislature adjourns next month, makes an exception only for an abortion performed to save the life of the mother. Abortion rights advocates say the bill signed by the GOP governor is certain to face legal challenges. Oh, it is. Oh, it will. I promise you that. The passage comes as the conservative U.S. Supreme Court considers ratcheting back abortion rights that have been in place for nearly 50 years. Because the Associated Press is no longer a reliable newswire anymore. Now it's a partisan propaganda piece. We want to outlaw abortion in the state of Oklahoma, Stitt said during a signing ceremony for the bill, flanked by anti-abortion lawmakers, clergy, and students. I promised Oklahomans I would sign every pro-life bill that hits my desk, and that's what we're doing here today. Under the bill, anyone convicted of performing abortion would face up to 10 years and $100,000 a fine. It does not authorize criminal charges against a woman for receiving an abortion. Senator Nathan Dahm, a Broken Arrow Republican, now running for Congress, who wrote the bill, called it the strongest pro-life legislation in the country right now, which effectively eliminates abortions in Oklahoma. Dahm said the bill would apply to any physicians in Oklahoma who dispense abortion medication to women, which accounted for more than 64% of all abortions performed in Oklahoma in 2020, the most recent year for which statistics were available. There is no enforcement mechanism in the bill for women who order abortion medication online from out-of-state suppliers. Oklahoma lawmakers passed the bill last year to prevent women from ordering abortion medication online. That measure was blocked by the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Because of interstate commerce, that was the right decision. In spite of the fact that it had the worst outcome because of interstate commerce, that was the correct decision on the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Look, I will not go into the details of why. Some of you know already, but I won't go into the details of why. But I've had a brush with abortion in my life. What happened with that, the woman that was involved was severely ashamed of what it is that she had to do. Because it was a big decision at the time. We're coming to a point where, I mean, with like Michelle Wolf, if you want an abortion, get one! And shout your abortion and stuff like that, where this is not a second thought. And there are times, and I don't know if this is true or not because I'm not inside the heads of the women, but there are times that it seems like it's a power trip, saying that yes, I can make life and I can take it away. Again, don't know if that's actually the case, but it sure seems like that some days. Or this is just going off to be a second thought. People are becoming proud of something like this. I wish we could move society back to the point. Because I don't want the government involved in this. I hate the government. I can't stand the government. But where if you did have to go do something like this, you either work to protect yourself, took extra care, were extra careful to make sure you didn't have to do anything like this, or if you did, you hid it from the world. And the open brazenness of bragging about it at this point is what's fueling a lot of this. Now, yes, there's always been the alt-right that's been completely outlawed all the time. Christian fascism side of that as well, which is part of the reason I hate the government off of it. But a lot of this is a pushback to things like Michelle Wolf. Shout your abortion. Get one! And by the way, I can't play that video because they will copyright pop me for that. I did that early on the channel and got copyright popped for it. So, yes, at this point, this is coming out. Abortion rights say this is unconstitutional. I don't know that it is. But we'll see what happens with this, and we will continue to see where this goes. And I know a lot of the pushback of this as well, and the reason that I call this pushback is because with Texas's near ban, a lot of people were jumping state lines, going to Arkansas and Oklahoma to go and procure the procedure as well. So that's what we see off of that. Is that Hermione in my stickers? I can't think of the actress's name. I know it's Emma. I can't think of her last name. I keep thinking Emma Stone, but that's the red-haired one that I like. What is her name? Why can't I think of this? I can see her face. Obviously, it's in the stickers, but... Or at least I think that's who that is. Anyway, last one. From the New York Post. Twitter is a shit show for employees since Elon Musk took a major stake. Report. Elon Musk's looming battle with Twitter's board is a source of major anxiety for company employees, many of whom are reportedly worried the billionaire's campaign of forced changes is just beginning. Musk's surprise rejection of a Twitter board seat emerged ahead of a scheduled day of rest for company employees, according to a report. Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal broke the news on his account the previous night, describing Musk's decisions as for the best, even as he warned workers that they would face distractions ahead, Bloomberg reported late on Monday. The uncertainty left Twitter workers feeling super stressed about the future, with employees reportedly working together to help each other get through the week. How soft do you have to be? That the simple idea that you wouldn't have the censorship power that you have had for years, voicing your opinions on other people and silencing the people that you don't agree with, and trying to silence your competitors so you have the sole proprietary decision over free speech. That somebody could come in and just even float the idea of being freer in speech, that you have to take a full day of rest. Fuck you. Watson, thank you. I knew it wasn't Stone. But seriously, fuck you. I can't even begin to imagine. If you don't like the current ownership, don't use the product and leave the company. I'm sure there are 1,000 other woke companies around this country that you've constantly decried as being fascist, racist, over rich, that you could go work for now. I hear they're hiring all across the country. A day of rest. Come down and work in the blue collar at some point. See what a day of rest is for us. I guarantee you'd be crying by the end of it all. But there you go. The report cited interviews with Twitter employees who were asked not to be identified discussing the company's inner workings. Several employees told the outlet that Twitter's internal environment was a shit show after Musk's deal with the board fell through. One Twitter employee griped that Musk was likely just getting started with pushing for change at the company, a development the worker described as unfortunate, according to Bloomberg. We're not going to be able to silence people we don't like anymore? Oh no, what do we do? But that's what we see off of that. Alright, so with that, and you know, I hadn't prepared to have something I'm thankful for off this, but I watched this video while we were on air, and I said this is going to be my white pill because you do like to see it. It's one of the things that you like to see. So on Wednesday, I close out the show with either something that restores my faith in humanity and something I'm thankful for, and today it's actually going to be both. Let's go back and watch this video again, this one that came out of the Target, because it's the important part for me.
Stop that shit, man! Get the fucking job! Stop! Hey!
Now, a lot of our friends over on the left will decry vigilante justice. In fact, that was one of the tearful sobs that they used when they described what happened with Rittenhouse. It's vigilante justice. The vigilantes are going to be empowered. They're going to go out there to enforce the law. What are we going to do? Meanwhile, also saying that all cops are bastards. But it might be time to go back and start doing some of this. This guy, frustrated over the fact that Target has probably had to raise prices 5 or 6 times to account for the fact that people can get away with, on a daily basis, coming in and taking $999 worth of merchandise out of their store and not face any charges for it. That they can just go back out and do this. This guy's frustrated, and he's not going to be able to do anything about it. It's California. They're disarmed. Mind you, he's also would be defending somebody else's property, not his own. Taking a life over something that should have been between Target and this guy. But now to come in, to get ready, to start to be ready, to change the society. To show again that crime is wrong, and if the government's not going to do anything about it, we're going to do something about it. I said the same thing about abortion just a bit ago. You can have all these laws out here. You can throw the laws out there. You can make the near permanent ban, make it a felony to provide. And people are still going to go back out behind your back and do it. And at this point, because of the way society's restructured it, they're going to be proud to do it as well. Whereas, you can look at this and you can try to start and say, this is wrong. Don't do this. I'm going to try to stop you. And even if I can't, and this guy does seem a little bit soy in his polo shirt and his khakis, even if I can't, I will do something because my government won't. Your government doesn't give a fuck about you. They give a fuck about your vote and your tax dollars. They don't give a goddamn about you, whether you live or die. And the more people start to realize that, and this guy is probably going to leave California. I would bet. At some point, after seeing this, after being videoed off of this, seeing another, he has to go in and buy his $40 worth of whatever he's going to buy in Target, while this guy walks out with a tote full of stuff that he didn't pay for. And a dozen people saw this video and realized that the government didn't have their best interest in mind. This guy had society's better interest in mind. Stop, don't do this, get a job. But the government doesn't. They just want to keep farming more tax dollars off of you. and have you come in and vote for another authoritarian bastard more and more, over and over again. And that, the fact that this guy stood up, the fact that Rittenhouse stood up, the fact that the militia in Kenosha stood up, that is what restores my faith in humanity. The people losing their faith, they're touching the government. That restores my faith in humanity. And I'm ready to see more of it. And I hope that we do. And with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. A little bit late, but again, I'm off this week. I didn't want to stay this long, unfortunately, but, you know, we got to do what we got to do because the news is here. Where's the outro music? Should we do that? Should we put some outro music up? Oh, I got to go find it again because... well, let's just say Windows Media Player was doing something stupid today. Or yesterday. Come on, think faster. All right, so with that, we are out of here. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Came by and hung out. There was a lot of stuff going on. We even had Durka join us over on the Instagram side briefly here. So thanks everybody for that. We saw some good stuff coming out of here. Got some nice pictures of Emma Watson dancing in the chat as well. And yeah, that is going to be that. And with that, we are going to head out of here for the day. If you are lurking, or you plan to lurk tomorrow, at least leave one message in there so I can say thank you. The Friday show is coming up where we say thank you to the live chat as well, so come back and join us for that. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow with more headlines, more news, possibly some more stuff going on about the manhunt in New York and the lieutenant governor and the gas and the inflation and everything else. Looking forward to talking more about the news with you guys in the morning. I'm going to go back and study more real estate courses here. We will see you next time over here. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.